Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Product Analytics Sync for February 14th, 2023. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to do the build board review. All right, so I'm just going to hide all the Zoom stuff. Hopefully, everyone can see my screen. All right, cool. So open issues, deploying Product Analytics to GitLab, the project itself for specific opted-in users. We still only have 3 opted-in users at this point. We're going to do some more announcements to see if anyone else would like to opt in, but we may end up actually kicking this out depending on how much feedback we get, and maybe focus our efforts on deploying onto the public handbook, for example. So yeah, the 59 planning issue I don't think needs to be covered at this point. Max, you have the product analytics export spike investigation. Yep.
We're going to have a sync, you, me, and Sam later, just to make sure we're on the same page and decide what we're going to do next.
That's correct. We also have an open issue for the collector host to differentiate that from the configurator. I think we'll just need to break that down and schedule that in, but that's open if anyone has any available capacity there. We have a discussion around the query designer. I believe we've already settled on the name. I think we also have a strategy in terms of how we want to implement kind of deploy the first implementation out in production, and how we want to handle it if we do end up having multiple versions of it or variants of that. I think that part of the strategy does need to be documented, and I have a draft somewhere, so I will try to publish that as soon as possible, and we can probably close that discussion out. So yeah, moving on. Planning breakdown, we have the onboarding API to retrieve the state of the product analytics stack. Jan, is there anything you'd like to call out here?
Yes, I have some updates on this. I have created a implementation plan that I've asked Max and Rob to please review the backend and frontend respectively. It's good that we now have an idea of what we are going to do with the listing page, because this also impacts how we're going to update and how we want to migrate from our current onboarding process to the new listing page, which is going to be shared. So I've all noted that in the implementation plan. So yeah, whenever both the back and the front ends approved, we can move this on to ready for scheduling.
Great. Moving on, we have the bug for the dashboard list that retains the fluid container after visiting a dashboard or the visualization designer. We'll have to update that title. There's no assignee yet, so we can just leave that as is unless anyone would like to speak to that.
Yeah, that will likely slip. It's also an issue that was, I think, created during this milestone. Yeah. It was just added in case we had the capacity, but yeah.
That's fine. We'll leave it here for now, and then we'll move it over to the next milestone. Once we close this one out, we have the dashboard issues for audience behavior. I did finally file the issue to start instrumenting custom events for the internal handbook. I think we can, I'll assign both of these to myself actually, and just make sure there's no other follow-ups to file, and we can close these out since these are effectively out there, and we've got date range filters and all that kind of stuff, which we'll speak to later. Set up data persistence with Jitsi Redis service. I have not made any movement since I've been working on standing up dev and staging clusters. I've been trying to resolve a compatibility issue with autopilot clusters so that we don't have to worry about scaling them, at least for the purposes of non-production use. So I'll just have to publish these changes a little bit later, but that's a little bit lower priority in relation to finishing the onboarding instructions, so I can get Rob and Max to help out with some infrastructure tasks. So yeah, that is that issue. And then Jan, you have the next one for cube querying rendering for improving widget responsiveness and consistency.
Yeah, this is one of the 2 issues that I took over. The other one's the learner issue. I have not had a chance yet to look at it this week. I will probably after this meeting, since my other tasks are now in review.
Got it. Thanks for the update for those 2. And then Rob, you have this issue here with replacing product analytics dashboard listing with new shared dashboards listing at the project level.
Yep, I'm having some RSpec fun times with it alternating between passing and failing tests. So that's always fun. So I'm trying to debug that. Yeah, still working on it, still making good headway. Need to break it out. and start getting reviews. So if I don't make too much more headway on this aspect, then I'm going to start doing that so I can focus on getting reviews while trying to fix these aspect bugs.
Got it. Thank you for the update there. We covered the Lerna setup. So then, Jan, back to you for syncing the analytics dashboard filters with the URL parameters.
Yeah, so this is a new issue that I created for visibility that I split out from adding the dashboard filters, just so that it's more visible in the movement that's happening, because dashboard filters is done and I'm now working on this. This is a small, like, nice to have in my opinion for users, because it's just syncing. It's just like I feel like an expectation, especially as we're moving to the customer preview, for users to be able to sync it with filters and bookmark filters and stuff like that. So yeah, this is in review with Rob. We'll see what he has to say, and hopefully not too much, but yeah.
Exciting. No, I think that'll be also nice just for us when we're testing things, when the source data gets old and we want to look back at a different time frame and just copy and paste that parameter. So thanks for that. We also have funnel analysis, which, Max, I can probably just speak to this, where you need to verify the changes here, but that's kind of blocked on the cluster, being able to publish those changes there, having some issues publishing it to the production cluster, and not wanting to disrupt the production dashboard, excuse me. So that's effectively blocked on me. There are, of course, like the following implementation issues that need to be created, but that comes after verifying that it all works in the where we need it to work. Max, did I miss anything there?
Nope, that's it. I'm pretty sure it works, but yeah, we can test it. I've got a couple of test projects now that have defined funnels. So once the changes are available, we can test if they work.
Got it. Cool. Our last issue from the previous sync was removing references to Jitsi and GitLab code. So we have 4 closed issues here. Max, you have the first for renaming the events table.
Yeah, it's the sort of the other half of it. Sorry, the other half of it from Jitsi to tracked events, which is now done and in production and works fine.
Awesome. And then Rob, you have the next one.
Very simple. Replace the term widget with panel across our documentation, schema, back end, front end, everywhere. So don't use the term widget, please, from now on. I beg of you.
Alrighty. And then we have filtering sessions by date range, those exceptions, which is related to the topmost ticket or issue. But Max, anything you want to call out here?
No, thank you. Sorry, Willow, go away. No, sorry. Just that it now works. We've sort of got a hack in there so that instead of joining the tracked events table to sessions table, now the sessions cube itself just queries the database. So there's no need to join, which makes the queries faster anyway. So yeah, it should now all be functioned as expected.
Nice work.
Something I also like to call out there is I've created a documentation update MR to note that when querying or measuring tracked events or sessions, that you can't mix the dimensions with either. So using sessions, you have to use session dimensions. This is also something that I think going forward, like in our visualization designer, we should make sure that that is applied, and that if there is find some way of like doing it in our schema, or one way, like with JSON schema version number 7, there's actually a new feature coming in where you can add like ifs to schemas, so we can like actually track like if someone has in their query configuration sessions, that we can like test that they don't have any tracked events dimensions and vice versa. But yeah, this is something that I just wanted to call out for people to be aware of when developing new features, and yeah, also something that I've documented for ourselves and our users.
And this is in our public documentation, or where would we find this?
Yeah, so the documentation update I'm adding to the API example, because we have a query example there, so I'm adding a note and a example for sessions as well.
Got it. Okay, great. All right, and then finally we have the dashboard filter date range control itself. Jan, anything you'd like to close it? Any closing thoughts here?
No, please, it's live. on the internal handbook. Please go try it out, try to break it. If you find any way to break it, please let me know.
Great. Then I think that about wraps up the billboard review, unless anything, if there's anything else that people would like to discuss.
When I go to the internal handbook dashboards, I see the error occurred while loading the average sessions per user panel. Should I be seeing that, or does the bug fix need to propagate still, or should I dig into that a little bit more?
Thanks for calling that out. The bug fix for that is still propagating. Thanks to Rob for quickly reviewing and merging that. It should be live on production within the next few hours.
Okay, cool. Thanks for confirming.
Great. Then that about wraps up the board review. Unless there's any final thoughts, otherwise I will stop sharing my screen and we can get to the rest of the agenda. All right, Sam, you have the next couple points.
All right, thanks. So wanted to call out that we finished our final plan for 1510. So wanted to walk through that briefly. There's a link to the issue there if you'd like to follow along at home. So this is going to be running us from the 18th to the 17th of March. And really what I wanted to highlight as our milestone objectives for 1510 is this is going to be the one where we complete the internal preview epic. So I'm really excited about this as a goal because we've been working in there for so long, and we're at the point where it seems realistic to actually mark that thing as closed, which is super exciting. Additionally, we want to get a backend POC completed for funnels if that's not already done, and also get our plan finalized for what shipping that MVC of funnels might look like as a second theme. You can see some of the issues that we're going to be potentially carryover from 15.9, depending on how progress goes over the next week or so. And then our key feature item is, again, going to be that internal preview epic. I won't go through all the individual issues, but they're marked on 1510. So if you filter or look at the board for 1510, you'll see them there. After that, these are going to be stack ranked like we always do. So work top to bottom, please. But we want to do this one. It's marked in 15.9, so this might not actually need to be here. We have an issue about adding custom events in the internal handbook. Right now, all we have data for are page views. So it's difficult for users to understand, like, this is where I might want to use a page view visualization versus an event count visualization. So we want to just have a little bit more variety of events to present in the internal handbook dashboards. We also want to work on the call to actions for dashboard configuration. This is going to make it easy for users to figure out what the right thing to do is, and not have to either get frustrated or ask for help themselves. After that, we want to start working on the column chart visualization. This is a really foundational way to look at data, especially data that is non-continuous, which is what a lot of people use line charts for, and that's not really what you should be using. So this is really going to be a key visualization we expect users to use quite frequently. It also might give us an easy way to start with a boring solution for funnels, which is actually a good segue to the next issue, which is about getting what eCharts provides for funnels into pajamas so that we might be able to use it ourselves as a proper funnel widget. So that's what we have planned for the 1510 milestone. Happy for comments, feedback, questions.
For the funnel chart, is that referencing the funnel chart type, or is that Sankey, or whatever it's called, or have we not decided yet?
So just funnels. So whenever we talk about Sankey, we should all think of that as a completely separate sort of visualization versus a funnel. So a funnel is really intended to be a single input and a single output for a data flow, whereas a Sankey diagram is a multi-source, multi-sync data flow. So you can have data coming from multiple places, going multiple places. A Sankey diagram really could be visualized as a superset of a funnel, but we don't need to approach it that way. We should start with just the funnel because it's the simpler one. People understand that more. I personally really like Sankeys, but I know a lot of people find them confusing. That might be something we don't even get to for a long time if our users can't think of something actionable they want to actually do with it. So we should think about those as separate things.
One important thing here. one important thing here is this was already decided and discussed, I think, 6-8 weeks ago with the foundations team. We are not doing GitLab UI hops for charts. We are going to directly use them. There's a chart component, but you can access the e-chart. And this is the preferred way. I need to check if the foundation team has already updated the docs on this so far, but we are not going to re-implement now one chart after the other from e-charts into GitLab UI and then use it in GitLab. We are always going to use, there is a specific GitLab UI chart component, which simply has access to all the e-chart stuff. And this is basically the way forward. They are even thinking about replacing the old line charts. This has created huge overhead and didn't help at all. So we can go directly, skip GitLab UI and use it there.
It sounds like then they're going to have some kind of wrapping component then, surely, for colors reasons and UIs that we're going to have to use that then drills into e-charts. Is that right?
Yes, they have already. There is a component on GitLab UI, which is simply, I think it's called charts, which basically is simply the wrap around e-charts. But I will double check tomorrow if they already updated the doc, because the doc currently says create a chart component, but this is horrible. This is a yeah, there is a chart component which is simply gives you one-to-one access to e-charts.
So if anyone does have any other additional comments, questions, feedback, always happy to have an async discussion as well. Feel free to take a look at this when you get time. So I also have the next point. I wanted to signal boost a merge request that I put in recently. Now that we are getting close to wrapping up what we've been calling the internal preview up to this point, it's going to be time to start working on what we've been calling the customer preview. But customer preview is not a commonly used term at GitLab. It means a lot of different things depending on who you're talking to, the context of the conversation. And so this merge request really tried to replace and clarify that into release phases, into something that should be more aligned with what our GitLab terminology is around alpha, closed beta, open beta, GA, as well as a first external use release. So this merge request is the first step here. I haven't gotten around to updating epics and issues, but I will be doing that to reflect what is in this merge request. So that's the background context if you see those changes. I also want to point out this does not necessarily directly correlate to a specific milestone. We don't have a milestone attached to alpha, closed beta, open beta yet. We will get there, but this merge request is not proposing those at this time. Any questions or comments on that? Otherwise, Rob, you've got the next one.
Yes, tangentially related to it, just because we've had previous conversation in the analytics session meeting around replacing Jitsi with Snowplow, which is absolutely fine, but obviously that has an impact on self-managed customers if they're reviewing the stack to make sure it meets all their legal compliance requirements, or even if it's on gitlab.com necessarily, just making sure that the data is stored in a way that's safe for them and their business practices. So I was just wondering if we're planning on where we're planning on doing that Snowplow swap in relation to this new release schedule.
Sure. Well, so since we haven't actually released to GA yet, we can be pretty flexible here. It's going to take us some time to figure out who that first external user is going to be. We're going to have to identify that person, talk to their legal team, see when we can get cycles in their development to even do it. So we will move forward with starting those conversations now, even if we haven't completed the Snowplow migration. All those will be framed around, hey, this is pre-alpha, everything is subject to change, including the Jitsi stuff. We will definitely have this buttoned up by GA because we don't want to be using Jitsi and GA. I would prefer that we have it wrapped up before we call the alpha complete. But definitely what we were calling beta, which is essentially feature complete, will be Snowplowified as opposed to Jitsi. Does that answer your
big
question, or I
advantage
felt like I rambled a little bit there?
Yeah,
that-
that answers my question.
Okay.
Part of
the
what
big
will help
advantage
is,
that we, yeah.
Go go
The
for it.
big advantage that we will get from Snowplow is that we might even can have a customer who doesn't add tracking, but rather gives us data slices from S3. So this is definitely something where Snowplow can help us a lot, because this might mean that they don't even need to interact directly with the collector, but the collector gets the data dumped from somewhere. Or Snowplow sends it out their existing environment and sends it to our stuff plus their existing stuff, and they basically can run that stuff side by side. So this is a huge flexibility advantage compared to previously. So
Yeah, and part of, I think, what will help in terms of actually determining when we can actually switch over is putting together the plan, which Sam, Basti, and I are currently working on, because of the different strategies we have with, GitLab managed environments and private environments, as well as self-managed. And so, Basti had alluded to before in his proof of concept that we could potentially just replicate our existing pipeline that we're using for service ping, and that gets us to our first customer very quickly. But then, we have to just first we need to have that plan so everyone is aware of it and understands it, and then we can figure out how that matches with our overall strategy. But in addition to that, that'll also help us determine the migration strategy of switching over from Jitsi to Tim's point of how we can ingest stuff from S3, or we can just switch over, like the actual A records itself, so that there's no change needed from customers that are using sending events already, so that it just goes over to Snowplow, and then we just have to backfill with the existing data once we have that updated, because we'll have to update the cube schema, we'll have to transform the previous data so that it all fits and has it's one complete set. But all of that just needs to be discussed, and we just need to put the plan together. And for that to happen, we just have to know what is our kind of near-term roadmap for Snowplow, and how that lines up with how that'll fit in with our phase releases here. All right, then it's show and tell time. Jan.
Yeah, not much to say about this. It's already covered in the close issues. But I'll repeat, yeah, please do go click on that link and try and break our UI, and let us know if we need to create any bug issues.
Very cool. Then I think we've reached the end of the agenda. Any other topics anyone would like to bring up? Questions, thoughts, feedback? All right, then I wish everyone a good rest of their Tuesday, good rest of your week, and then we'll catch you on Slack or some other async medium. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, folks.